Smile, Bridgie.
My parents have always known I was gay. Growing up, they totally assumed it, even though I had boyfriends and loved boys and whatever. So they always knew that, and that was always okay. So when I came out, they were like, oh, we know. And I was like, I'm sorry, oh my God. And then I was out as a lesbian, like I guess 3.5 years with them in public. And finally, I was like, well, Mom, it's kind of more than that. I'm kind of struggling with my gender identity.
So I grew up in Kent in England with my mum, actually primarily my mum, because my mum and dad broke up when I was, I believe, 10 years old, because we were all supposed to move here actually to Florida as a family, and my mum ended up kind of chickening out last minute, and my dad and I were already living here, and so then I was like freaking out myself because I didn't think my mum was going to be here, so I moved back to England and I spent the age of 10 to 18 just my mum and I. So my mum brought me up most of the time, and she had always been really open with me about the LGBTQ community, always showing me documentaries from a really young age about transgender people, and things like that as well. And I remember her asking me questions about it all the time, like, how do you feel about this? Or, just general questions about it really. And at that young age, at that time I didn't really care. If I ever, thought I was gay or transgender or anything like that, they always wanted me to be really open with them. So I grew up in a, totally cool, neutral family.
My mother left my dad when I was 2, and we moved from South Carolina to Florida, and I guess it was in 1995. I celebrated my second birthday here, and just due to the financial situation of my mother, we really couldn't afford to live by ourselves, so we lived with my grandparents, Grammy and Pappy, and that's the house that I grew up in, I guess, until I was like 6 years old. But like I said, so due to financial reasons, we never had fast food or candy or soda or TV or anything like that. So I, being just me and my mom, spent the day reading books and playing outside and coloring and reading plays and making up my own plays and working outside in the garden with my pappy and planting flowers and fixing stuff. So I guess I had a pretty loose childhood. I remember going to the outlets and called my mom and was talking to her, and she's like, how are you doing, blah blah blah, and I was like, Mom, I have a new crush, and she's like, oh really, who is it, blah blah blah, and I was like, it's actually a girl. And I told her that I was crushing on Bridget, and then she was like, oh okay, it's you do you, Doodle, you do you, and I was like, okay. And then I don't know, Bridget and I started dating, I would guess, and whatnot. And then she came home with me for Thanksgiving. And, everyone loved her. Everyone loved her. My little brother, who was 6, fell in love with her. And my grandparents loved her. And everything, was really, really good. And then I went to visit her for Christmas. And then we just went home over the weekend to see my family. And she has a thank you note from Ransom in her room. My family adores her. The dynamics of everything, whatever, we'll figure it out, but I'm not too worried because they love me and support me, and they love her and support her. So I feel like my experience with coming out is entirely different than every other person's, but I guess every other person's is different too. It's just sometimes I guess it's hard to relate because mine was just not the norm, I guess.
Even though I knew my parents are both really cool with everything, it still is that awkward, I have to tell you something that's very big kind of situation. We went to dinner and I was like, so I have something to tell you. And he was like, oh my gosh, thank God, please tell me what it is. And I was like, I actually found someone who I want to be with, and that person is a girl. And he was like, oh my goodness, thank God, I thought you were doing drugs. So he was like, I'm just so happy that you found someone. He was like, where's the champagne? And so we had a glass of champagne together. Actually, I think we had a bottle, or maybe two. And we celebrated, and he was so happy and excited. And then the next day I came home back here, and I wanted to tell my mum, so I called her. I didn't want to have to wait till she was coming here, because that was like 6 months later, and I was too excited. So I literally called her and I was like, Mum, I found someone, and she's a girl. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited too. Like, I literally had the best experience from both my parents. You know, they could not have been more supportive, more excited. My dad wanted to meet Gabby like right away, so then we met in DC, and he met her and he absolutely loved her. And then Gabby came over to England this past Christmas and met my mum, and my mum could not be more in love with her if she tried. I had boyfriends all through high school, like, you know, and then I came here and I still had a boyfriend that was in England in freshman year of Flagler. And then I remember meeting Gabby in a sophomore year, like the beginning of sophomore year, in one of our classes, and I was completely mesmerized by her. I didn't know really what the feelings were. I didn't know if, you know, it was because I really liked her, or if it was just because I really wanted to be really good friends, but I knew that it was something more, like, deep down. Last summer, I was actually living here by myself at the time. I'd just moved in here, and she broke up with her girlfriend, and literally that night, actually that day, when I found out early that morning, we went to lunch with my best friend Valerie, who lives here with us, and Valerie spilt the beans, and said that I liked Gabby and I'd liked her for a while. That night, after the lunch, she texted me and asked if she could come and stay over the following night. And so she did. She came over, and literally from that night, the moment we kissed, like, everything changed.
So we're here mini golfing for the day. It's kind of our thing. We always have like competitions of who wins, and we make a bet to begin with. And we haven't really decided our bet yet.
No.
But
it's always last minute, depending on who's going to win.
yeah.
I don't like to bet.
So we
big
raise the
things.
stakes
Yeah.
towards the end.
Yeah, the last hole is when it gets really intense.
What do you guys bet on?
Getting her new lipstick, getting me a new bathing
Puppies.
suit. Puppies. Last time it was puppies.
Yeah.
So it gets pretty intense sometimes. Lipstick to puppies.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!
We like knew of each other, I guess.
Well,
but this is beforehand. This is like before birthday? B and I, well, she saved me from I don't know, I guess, well, on my birthday, the weekend after my birthday, I, on my 21st birthday, drank a little too much with friends and invited her to come like hang out with us downtown, and then got really, like, it wasn't good. And I didn't know where I was gonna go, because Mary's at the time boy tour is in town. I couldn't come back here and I couldn't go back there, and I was like freaking out. So Bridget was like, I'll take care of you, don't worry, and like took me home, and then we stood in the kitchen talking for like 3 hours about like feminism and politics and things. And then started like chatting and whatnot, and went on a little coffee date, and we're hanging out a little bit more, and would hang, you know, I don't know, see each other on campus and stuff. And then I was totally hardcore crushing.
are you ready, world? Oh, let's get that face rolling. Lips, yes, nothing but trouble. Cold of a touch, you got me in chains. You got me in chains for your love.
Bridget's favorite
Oh God.
is when I talk with my Long Island accent. I don't know why, but she just thinks it's the most funniest thing. This is what I like to do when I like mock tours sometimes, and I always pretend I'm always like, welcome to Flagler College, you know. I do that one. Oh, watered down coffee is my favorite. So good.
Oh my hand. My experiences in public with being misgendered started when I cut my hair. So even before I cut my hair, I was never misgendered because I had long hair and I wore masculine clothes, but no one ever perceived me as male like they did and started to when I cut my hair. So now, that being almost 2 years later of having short hair, I get misgendered at least once a week. And there's this one regular at work who comes in, and I have my name tag that says Bridget. It's a feminine name. It's right there at eye level. He comes in every single day, and the other day he came in and said, Bridget, my boy, how are you today? And I was like, girl, my girl, Bridget, my girl.
So, we were here at this hall, and this little girl and her family were like over here not paying attention to us, and I do the hole and I get a hole in one, so obviously I'm very excited and I'm like shouting and screaming, and this little girl looks at us and she's like, what are you laughing at? And I was like, oh, I got a hole in one. And so she comes running over and runs onto the golf course, and she's like, what, you got a hole in one? And I was like, yeah, I got a hole in one. And so she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then she looks at Gabby and she comes walking over to her and she's like, are you a boy or a girl?
I was like, oh, here we go.
Oh God. And I was like, oh, she's a girl. And she was like, oh, really? But you look like a boy. And she was like, but wait, what's your name? And so we're like, her name's Gabby. Almost like she needed verification that she's actually a girl, not a boy. And then she just like ran away. And then her little sister came over later and was like, are you a boy or a girl? And so then the older one, after having found out that she's a girl, was like, oh, she's a girl, obviously, her name's Gabby.
When Bridge came home for Thanksgiving, he was curious, as any, 6-year-old little person would be, but was like, why do you have like a boy's haircut, Bridget? And then and would say it just like that. And then Bridget's like, well, I can have any haircut I want, Ransom. And he's like, I guess. And then, he like took her away to his room and had to show her all of his little doodads in his room and whatnot. So then when we got like with the rest of my family, over Thanksgiving, I have this one uncle who suffered a stroke, so he's still kind of dealing with some of that. I guess didn't hear me when I said, this is my friend Bridget, Bridget, female name. He said something like, oh, are you a Florida boy too? Or, something like that. And Ransom just runs up to him and it was like, oh, she's a girl. She's not a boy. Like, duh.
Something to the effect of, that's a hell of a lot of woman for a wannabe man. It was just one of those things that you think about yourself. And you wonder if other people think it about you. But you never really get that confirmed. And it was just one of those things where you're like, fuck. Like, of course people think that. It was just a really shitty thing that was said, and it's just like that one thing like that a girl is insecure about or a guy's insecure about, and no one's ever said it, or they know if they go there it's going to be the thing that cripples you. I'm really, really nervous and excited, but more so nervous more than anything to talk to my mom. I don't really plan on talking to my dad. I think my mom's actually going to do that for me, but it just is kind of, I don't know, I have a feeling like I want to throw up a little, and at the same time being really, really excited.
this time around, I'm going to leave it up to my parents. I think I'm going to leave it up to my mom and kind of see how today goes, and if it goes well, then, you know, I'll kind of go from there, but if it doesn't go well, then I'll probably have to delay it for a while.
Yeah.
But it's just a scary feeling, and I just don't know how she's going to react, and I think about it constantly. I dreamt about it last night, so I'm really curious to see what happens. I think it's just better if I wait and kind of just open up to her about not feeling comfortable in my body initially, and instead of flooding her with everything all at the same time, I think that might be too much.
She's gonna be like, yeah, I had a feeling.
Really?
I really do.
You do?
I do.
Why?
Because we know each other very well, and she is going to realize that I haven't talked about it in a while, and we haven't commiserated, or I haven't been like, oh my god, yeah, like when you are on T and when I'm on T, like how it used to be. I think she'll realize, you know, when she thinks about it. But in the meantime, when she's very caught up in her own thing, she is.
I think she's like, that's great, buddy. Like, as she always is.
Yeah.
She's always like that with us.
Yeah.
Like, when we were like, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, cool. Like, have fun. Like, it's
Yeah.
never like, hey, let's talk about this. Or like, oh, I knew it.
I
think
she'll just say, you know, she had a feeling because I haven't talked about it in a while. That's what I think she's going to say. But right now, she's very wrapped up in her own thing. It's a huge decision to make those transitional steps happen. I mean, right this
now,
very moment, she is telling her parents,
Yeah.
or at least her mom, that she identifies as a male.
So, after talking to my mom about my brother for an hour, and beating around the bush, and obviously needing to talk about something but ignoring it, and leaving the giant elephant in the room, I went into her bathroom with her because I asked her to give me something, and I sat on her bed and we started talking about my brother some more, and then I said, okay, well, on another note, I have to talk to you about something, and she was sitting on a chair, and she obviously knew it was serious, so I told her she could come sit on the bed, and she kind of sat closer to me, and I told her that for a while now, or like 6 months initially, that I've just felt really uncomfortable in my skin, and kind of started to elaborate, and got really upset, and maybe cried a little. But initially she was just really open and just looked at me and listened and really wanted me to keep going and talking so she could understand more, I think. But she reacted how I thought if it went well that she would do what she did and kind of just listen and nod and then be supportive if I got upset. So I think it went really well. She wants to know more about it. She wants to do her own research. I talked to her about surgery, and she's just more so concerned about my health and how I'm treating myself. So I think it went really, really well.
So, tell me what you've most recently decided, like what you're thinking about in terms of, you know, steps to get to where you want to be.
Well, I took a big step this weekend by talking to my mom and deciding to tell her about wanting to have top surgery and everything. So that was really, really big. And this weekend I'm going to try to talk to them more about hormones, because before I didn't think I wanted to go on hormones. Now I do, because even though I thought that I could make some changes that I would be happy with after I had top surgery, I think I just want a different kind of results than settling. And I think I was settling, and because I have the resources and the money to be able to do so, I think that I should, instead of just kind of getting there but not fully doing something about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So actually, I've come to a really good place, and I've been meaning to talk to you about it, but I didn't, get a chance to yet because you were having this big epiphany of your own. But I've actually kind of decided that I don't want to do anything or transition at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
I know. So I've actually like been identifying as a girl lately.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I, have just like found this place where I'm comfortable with that and just being a different type of girl, a different kind of femininity, if you will, and just kind of realized that society was what was making me feel the way I was, and not myself, not
That's good.
my own mind.
No, I'm
So
glad.
so I'm actually in a really good place with that. Like, I actually called myself a girl that other day for the first time in a really long time, and was totally okay with it and feel really, really good about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you could ask for.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm good with me. Yeah.
You're so cute.